Layla wiped the sweat from her forehead as she adjusted the apron around her waist. Another long night at the diner stretched before her, and she could already feel the weight of exhaustion settling on her shoulders. The smell of fried food and freshly brewed coffee hung in the air, mingling with the faint scent of cleaning supplies. The fluorescent lights buzzed softly overhead, casting a pale glow across the small diner that had been a part of the neighborhood for decades. The walls were decorated with old photographs of the city, some of them yellowed with age, and faded posters of musicians from long ago. To most people, it was just another place to grab a quick bite, but for Layla, it was her second home. She had started working at the diner 2 years ago, soon after moving to the city. Life had not been easy. Bills kept piling up and the rent seemed to climb higher every month. Her family back home relied on her for help, and every tip she earned felt like a lifeline. Yet, despite all the pressures and hardships, Layla carried a secret with her, one that she rarely shared with anyone. She could sing, not just hum along to the radio or sing in the shower, but truly sing. Her voice had depth, warmth, and a power that could move people, even if she often doubted it herself. Tonight, like every other night, she moved from table to table, taking orders and serving food with a polite smile. There were a few regulars scattered around the diner, each absorbed in their own worlds. The older man in the corner, who always ordered a cup of black coffee and a slice of pie, glanced up and nodded at her. Layla smiled back, feeling a small surge of comfort from the familiarity. She had learned the stories of these customers over countless shifts, even if they didn't know her story. As she refilled the ketchup bottle on one table, she hummed a tune softly, letting it slip past her lips when no one was paying attention. The sound was light, almost fragile, yet it carried a melody that seemed to brighten the room, even if just a little. Humming had become her way of surviving the long hours, a secret thread of joy in the monotony of the diner life. The regulars had come to expect it, though none of them had ever commented on it. Maybe they assumed she was just whistling a tune to pass the time. The night stretched on, and the diner began to fill with a mix of late-night workers, students, and the occasional passerby looking for a warm meal. Layla moved with practiced efficiency, taking orders, bringing plates, and listening to small talk with patience. She had grown good at pretending she was just another part of the furniture, blending into the background while her mind wandered to a different place. She often imagined herself on a stage, bright lights shining down, people listening intently, every note from her voice holding their attention. Those thoughts were a comfort, a secret world where her dreams felt real. Around 9 o'clock, the diner manager, a burly man with a gruff voice named Tom, came out from the kitchen and leaned against the counter. He looked tired, his apron smudged with flour and grease, but his eyes scanned the room with a careful watchfulness. "Layla, we've got something a little different tonight," he said, his voice low so the customers wouldn't hear. "There's an open mic event for local performers. We were supposed to have someone perform, but they canceled. Might be an opportunity for you." Layla blinked at him, unsure she had heard correctly. "Me?" she whispered, glancing around nervously. She had never performed in front of strangers, not outside of a tiny, private gathering of friends. Her voice had always been a secret, something safe that belonged only to her. Tom nodded. "Yeah, I know you've got the voice. I've heard you humming while you work. People might actually enjoy it. What do you think?" Her stomach twisted. The idea was terrifying. The thought of standing in front of a room full of strangers, all eyes on her, made her heart pound. What if she messed up? What if she embarrassed herself? She had spent years keeping her dreams locked away, safe from the cruel judgment of the world. Now here was a chance to open the door. She hesitated, then glanced back at the tables. Some of the customers had begun to take notice of the announcement. Excitement buzzed in the air. She could see Tom's encouraging nod, and a small flicker of courage sparked within her. She had always dreamed of this, even if she had never dared to imagine it would come so suddenly. Taking a deep breath, she nodded. "Okay," she whispered, barely loud enough for him to hear. "I'll do it." Tom smiled, a rare softness in his usually stern face. "Good, you'll do fine. Just go out there and sing your heart out. That's all anyone can ask." The next hour passed in a blur. Layla continued serving, but now her mind was racing with a mix of fear and anticipation. She practiced the song in her head, humming the melody softly whenever she could. Each note felt heavier with the weight of expectation, yet lighter with the thrill of possibility. She could feel her pulse quicken as the time drew closer. The open mic stage was set up near the corner of the diner, a small space with a single microphone and a spotlight that wasn't very bright but felt monumental to her. When the moment came, Tom guided her toward the stage. The customers had begun to gather around, curiosity lighting their faces. Layla's hands trembled slightly as she adjusted the microphone. The first few seconds felt like an eternity, every pair of eyes on her, the hum of conversation fading into silence. She closed her eyes for a brief moment, trying to calm her racing heart. She thought about why she was doing this, about every night she had spent dreaming of this moment while washing dishes and taking orders. Then, she began to sing. Her voice started softly, almost hesitant, but it was pure and clear, carrying a warmth that seemed to fill the room. The notes flowed effortlessly, surprising even herself. She felt the words come alive in her mouth, her body relaxing as the music became a part of her. The room went quiet, customers leaning in to listen, some with their mouths open in awe. Even the regulars who had always seen her as just a waitress paused to listen. The song carried emotion, telling a story of hope, struggle, and quiet determination. Layla lost herself in the melody, forgetting the diner, the tables, and even her fear. She was no longer a waitress serving food and coffee. She was a singer sharing a piece of her soul with the world, and the world was listening. When she finished, there was a moment of stunned silence, followed by a ripple of applause that grew into a roar. Layla opened her eyes, blinking against the light, overwhelmed by the reaction. Customers clapped, some whistled, and a few even rose to their feet. Tom's face was a mixture of pride and surprise. He had always known she had talent, but seeing it unfold before everyone was something else entirely. Layla's cheeks burned with a mix of embarrassment and exhilaration. She had done it. She had stepped out of the shadows of her ordinary life and shared her voice with the world. And for the first time, the world seemed to take notice. That night, the small diner felt like a stage in a grand theater, and she had given a performance that no one would forget. The customers continued to talk excitedly about the song, sharing their admiration and encouraging her to pursue her gift. For Layla, it was the start of something she had always hoped for, even if she didn't yet know where it would lead. By the end of her shift, Layla returned to the small office to clock out, her hands still shaking slightly. The thrill of the performance mingled with exhaustion, creating a dizzying but wonderful feeling. Tom handed her a cup of coffee, a silent acknowledgement of the courage she had shown. Layla smiled, sipping it slowly, savoring the warmth and the taste of something more than just coffee. It was the taste of possibility, of a future that might finally include the dream she had carried silently for so long. As she walked out of the diner into the cool night air, she looked up at the city lights, feeling a sense of hope and excitement that she hadn't felt in years. The night was ordinary in many ways, but for Layla, it was the night her life began to change. She had taken the first step toward a dream, and nothing could ever take that away from her. The city stretched out before her, full of unknowns, but for the first time Layla felt ready to face them, armed with her voice and the courage to share it. The night had a strange energy after Layla's performance. The diner, which had felt like just another place to work hours before, now buzzed with excitement and curiosity. Customers whispered among themselves, replaying the song in their minds, and a few even pulled out their phones to capture the moment before they left. Layla stood behind the counter, trying to act as if nothing had changed, but inside her heart was racing. She could hardly believe what had just happened. A small part of her had always dreamed of this, but seeing it unfold in front of her eyes was overwhelming. Tom approached her, wiping his hands on a towel. "You were amazing," he said, his voice low so the customers wouldn't hear. "I didn't know you had that kind of voice. Seriously, people are still talking about it." Layla forced a smile, brushing back a loose strand of hair. "Thank you, Tom. I just sang." "No, you did more than that. You made everyone stop and listen." "That doesn't happen every day," Tom said, his usual stern expression softened. "And there's someone here who might be interested in talking to you." Curious, Layla glanced around. In the corner, a man was standing slightly apart from the rest of the customers. He was well-dressed but not flashy, carrying a small notebook in one hand. Something about him made Layla pause. He wasn't like the usual people who came to the diner. There was a calm confidence in the way he watched the room, an attention to detail that suggested he was used to noticing things that most people overlooked. As the last customer left, the man walked up to the counter. "Hi, I'm David," he said, extending his hand. "I couldn't help but hear your performance. I work in the music industry, and I've been looking for someone with a fresh, genuine voice. May I talk to you for a moment?" Layla's hand trembled slightly as she shook his. Sure," she said softly. Her mind was racing. A real opportunity? Was this happening to her? David smiled, sensing her hesitation. "I know this might be sudden, and I don't want to pressure you, but your voice has something special. I'd like to offer you a chance to record a demo, something professional that could help you start a career in music. You don't have to decide right now. Just think about it." Layla nodded, feeling a mix of excitement and fear. The idea of leaving the diner and stepping into a completely different world was both thrilling and terrifying. She had spent years building a life that was safe and predictable, and now someone was offering her a path that could change everything. It was almost too much to process. After David left, Tom clapped a hand on her shoulder. "You're thinking about it, aren't you?" he asked, a knowing smile on his face. Layla nodded again, her thoughts a jumble. "I don't know if I can. It's so big. What if I fail? What if I'm not ready? Layla, you already took a big step tonight. You sang in front of a room full of strangers and made them stop in their tracks. That's more than most people ever do. You can do this," Tom said, his voice firm but encouraging. The rest of the night passed in a blur. Layla cleaned tables, washed dishes, and refilled coffee cups, but her mind was elsewhere. She replayed every note of the song she had sung, every look on the customers' faces, and every word David had said. The excitement and fear mingled in a strange way, making it hard to focus on the mundane tasks of the diner. When her shift finally ended, Layla walked out into the quiet streets. The city lights glimmered against the dark sky, reflecting in puddles from a recent rain. She paused for a moment, taking a deep breath. The night was cool and calm, but inside her mind was racing with possibilities. She had always wanted more than just the routine of the diner, but the thought of stepping into the unknown made her stomach twist with nerves. Over the next few days, Layla couldn't stop thinking about David's offer. She found herself humming the melody of her song whenever she had a free moment, imagining what it would be like to record it in a professional studio. She told herself that maybe, just maybe, this was the chance she had been waiting for her whole life. At the same time, doubt lingered in the corners of her mind. Could she really leave everything behind and chase a dream that had always seemed so far away? She talked to a few close friends, people she trusted to give honest advice. They encouraged her, reminding her that opportunities like this didn't come every day. "You have the talent, Layla," one friend said. "You just have to believe in yourself and take the chance. You'll regret it if you don't." Finally, after much contemplation, Layla made a decision. She called David and agreed to meet him at a small studio he recommended. The night before the recording, she couldn't sleep. Her mind replayed every detail of the diner performance, every note, every feeling. Fear and excitement battled within her, leaving her both restless and hopeful. When she arrived at the studio, she was greeted warmly by David and a small team of sound engineers. The studio was nothing like the diner. It was sleek, modern, and filled with equipment that Layla had only seen in videos. Microphones, soundboards, and instruments surrounded her, making her feel both intimidated and exhilarated. She took a deep breath and reminded herself why she was there. This was her chance to show the world her voice, just as she had shown the diner that night. The recording process was a learning experience. The engineers guided her, helping her find the best way to use her voice, adjust her pitch, and express the emotion in the song. Layla listened carefully, absorbing every piece of advice, determined to make the most of this opportunity. As the hours passed, her confidence grew. The fear that had gripped her began to fade, replaced by a sense of purpose and excitement. Each take sounded better than the last, and she began to see what her voice could truly do in the right setting. By the end of the session, Layla had recorded a demo that captured the essence of her talent. She listened to the playback, tears welling in her eyes. It sounded like the person she had always dreamed of becoming, someone strong, expressive, and alive. David smiled as he listened beside her. "This is just the beginning," he said. "I think people are going to love your voice." Layla left the studio that evening feeling a mix of exhaustion and exhilaration. She walked through the city streets, the night alive with possibility. Every step felt lighter, as if the fear that had weighed her down for so long had finally been lifted. She knew there would be challenges ahead, but for the first time in her life, she felt ready to face them. Back at the diner the next day, things felt different. Her coworkers noticed a change in her demeanor, a quiet confidence that hadn't been there before. Customers who had seen her performance continued to compliment her, some even asking when she would sing again. Layla smiled politely, feeling proud but also aware that this was just the beginning. The diner had been the place where her dream started, but it would not be the place where it ended. Over the following weeks, Layla balanced her work at the diner with meetings and recording sessions. She was careful to keep her commitments, knowing she needed to maintain stability while pursuing something uncertain and new. It wasn't easy. The schedule was demanding, and there were moments when doubt crept back in. But each time she sang, whether in the studio or in front of a small group, she felt a spark of joy and purpose that reminded her why she had taken this leap. Word began to spread slowly. Friends, coworkers, and even some regular customers shared videos and recordings online. People began to notice Layla, drawn not just to her talent but to the authenticity and emotion she put into her singing. Offers for small gigs started to appear, each one a new step along the path she had once only dreamed of. The world that had seemed so distant suddenly felt closer, and Layla realized that her life was beginning to change in ways she had never imagined. Through it all, Layla never forgot the diner. It was the place where she had first sung in front of strangers, the place that had given her the courage to take a chance. Each time she returned, she remembered the nervous excitement, the applause, and the look of awe on Tom's face. That night had been ordinary for most people, but for her it had been extraordinary. The night her life began to shift towards something bigger, something brighter. And she knew that this was only the start of a journey that would take her far beyond the walls of the diner, to a place where her voice could finally be heard by the world. After the recording session, Layla felt a strange mix of exhaustion and excitement that lingered for days. Every morning she woke up with a sense of purpose she had never experienced before. The mundane routines of life, commuting, making coffee, washing dishes, now felt like steps along a path toward something greater. But the fear of failure still hovered over her, a quiet voice that whispered doubts whenever she wasn't focused on her singing. She spent the next few weeks carefully balancing her work at the diner with opportunities that began to appear. Small performances at local cafes and community events gave her a taste of performing for larger audiences. Each performance made her a little braver, a little more confident in herself. People would stop what they were doing to listen, some even recording her songs on their phones. Layla never expected this kind of attention, and it made her heart swell with both pride and disbelief. One evening, after a long shift at the diner, Layla received a message from a local music promoter. He had seen one of the videos online and was impressed. He invited her to perform at a small showcase for emerging artists. It was a chance to be heard by people who had connections in the music industry. Layla hesitated for a moment, feeling the familiar pang of fear. But she reminded herself of the night at the diner, the thrill of singing in front of strangers, and the encouragement she had received from David. She accepted the invitation. The day of the showcase arrived, and Layla felt a whirlwind of nerves. She arrived at the venue, a cozy space with warm lighting and a small stage. The room was filled with people chatting and enjoying drinks, the atmosphere buzzing with anticipation. Backstage, Layla watched other performers, each with their own style and energy. She felt a moment of insecurity, wondering if she really belonged there. But when she looked around, she remembered how far she had come, from a small diner to a place where people actually wanted to hear her sing. When it was her turn, Layla stepped onto the stage. The lights were bright and the room fell quiet as she adjusted the microphone. Her hands shook slightly, but as soon as she began to sing, the nerves melted away. The song she performed was the same one she had sung at the diner, the one that had started it all, but now it carried a new depth. Her voice filled the room, resonating with emotion, and the audience listened, captivated. Layla felt the music flow through her, connecting her to every person in the room. The applause at the end of the performance was louder than she had imagined. People stood, clapping and cheering, some even whistling in appreciation. Layla felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes. She had done it again. She had shared her voice with the world, and they had listened. The promoter approached her afterward, shaking her hand enthusiastically. "You have something special," he said. "I want to help you get more exposure. Let's see what we can do to get your music out there." Layla's heart raced with possibilities. This was exactly what she had hoped for, yet it felt surreal. Over the next few days, she worked closely with the promoter and David to create a plan for sharing her music more widely. They discussed recording a full track, creating videos, and sharing her songs on social media. Layla was cautious but eager, aware that this was an important step. She wanted to make sure she did everything right. As she balanced her time between the diner, rehearsals, and meetings, Layla began to notice something remarkable. People around the city were starting to recognize her. In the grocery store, a cashier smiled and said, "Hey, aren't you the singer from that video?" On the bus, a stranger nodded at her and said, "Your voice is amazing. Keep going." Each interaction filled her with a sense of validation she had never experienced before. For the first time, she felt that her dreams were not just fantasies. They were becoming real. One afternoon, Layla returned to the diner for her regular shift. The place had not changed much, but the way she looked at it had. She moved behind the counter with the same efficiency as always, taking orders and serving food, but there was a quiet confidence in her movements. Regular customers greeted her warmly, some even asking when she would sing again. Layla smiled, realizing that the diner was still an important part of her life. It was where she had discovered her courage, where she had first shared her voice. It was her foundation, and she would never forget it. That evening, as the diner quieted down, Layla found a moment to herself. She hummed softly while cleaning tables, letting the familiar melody flow through her. It felt different now, no longer a secret comfort, but a bridge to the wider world. The experiences of the past few weeks had transformed her. She was no longer just the waitress who hummed to herself while working. She was a performer, a singer with a growing audience, a woman stepping confidently into her dreams. Later, she received a call from a local radio station that had heard her song online. They wanted to interview her and play her recording on air. Layla felt a surge of excitement and nerves. This was her first step into a bigger stage, a platform that could reach thousands of people. She prepared carefully, thinking about what she would say, how she would present herself. When the time came, she spoke clearly and confidently, sharing her story, her journey from the diner to this moment, and her love for music. The host was impressed, praising her talent and dedication. The response was immediate. Listeners sent messages, commented online, and shared her story. Layla was overwhelmed by the support, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. Each message reminded her that her voice had the power to reach beyond her own world, to touch the lives of people she had never met. It was a feeling that brought both joy and responsibility, a realization that her talent was not just for herself, but for everyone willing to listen. As weeks turned into months, Layla's presence in the local music scene grew. She performed at cafes, small theaters, and community events, each show a step toward something bigger. Her confidence blossomed, and her skills improved with every performance. She learned to manage the balance between her old life and her new opportunities, keeping her work at the diner as a reminder of where she had come from. The diner remained a place of comfort and inspiration, a symbol of her beginnings and the courage it had given her. One evening, after a particularly moving performance at a small theater, Layla stepped outside to find the city lights twinkling against the dark sky. She felt a sense of accomplishment and possibility. The journey was far from over, but she had come so far from the girl who had nervously hummed behind the counter. Her voice had grown stronger, her confidence deeper, and her dreams clearer. Each step she took was guided by her determination and the support of those who believed in her. That night, as she walked home, Layla reflected on the path that had brought her here. The diner, the open mic, the recording session, and the small performances, all of it had built a foundation she could rely on. She had discovered that talent alone was not enough. Courage, perseverance, and belief in oneself were equally important. The journey had tested her in ways she could never have imagined. But it had also revealed her strength and resilience. Layla knew that bigger challenges lay ahead, opportunities that would demand even more from her. But for the first time, she felt ready. The fear that had once held her back had transformed into excitement and determination. She had learned that sharing her voice was not just about being heard. It was about connecting, inspiring, and growing. And as she looked up at the city skyline, the lights reflecting hope and possibility, she felt a deep sense of gratitude and anticipation for the next chapter of her journey. Layla could hardly believe how quickly her life was changing. Just a few months ago, she had been quietly humming behind the counter of the diner, dreaming of a life that seemed far away. Now she was receiving calls from local event organizers, interviews from small radio stations, and invitations to perform at larger venues. The world she had once only imagined was beginning to open its doors to her, and every step forward felt like both an exciting adventure and a terrifying challenge. One afternoon, David called with news that left Layla both stunned and elated. A well-known producer had seen one of her videos online and wanted to meet her. This was an opportunity that could transform her career, but it also came with immense pressure. Layla spent the next few days preparing meticulously. She practiced her songs, refined her presentation, and rehearsed answers to questions she might be asked. The nerves bubbled beneath the surface, but she also felt a sense of readiness she had never known before. The day of the meeting, Layla arrived at a sleek office building downtown. The city hummed with energy around her, the streets alive with people going about their busy lives. She took a deep breath before entering the building, reminding herself of the journey that had brought her here, from the diner, from the small open mic, from the first recording session. Each step had prepared her for this moment. Inside, she was greeted warmly by the producer and his team. They asked her about her background, her experiences, and her inspirations. Layla spoke honestly, sharing her story of late-night shifts at the diner, her love for music, and the moment she first sang in front of strangers. The team listened intently, clearly impressed by both her talent and her authenticity. When it was time to perform, Layla felt her nerves spike again, but she took a deep breath and let the music take over. As she sang, she felt a transformation. Her voice filled the room, strong, clear, and full of emotion. Every note carried her story, every phrase reflected her journey. The producers exchanged glances, nodding appreciatively. When the song ended, there was a brief silence followed by enthusiastic applause. Layla felt a rush of relief and excitement. This was the moment she had been waiting for, the validation that her talent could truly make an impact. After the performance, the team discussed potential plans for Layla's music career. They talked about recording a professional single, creating a music video, and promoting her on social media and streaming platforms. They also suggested live performances in larger venues, introducing her to audiences who had never heard her voice before. Layla listened carefully, absorbing every detail, and felt a mixture of excitement and apprehension. The opportunities were incredible, but the pressure was also immense. Back in her apartment that evening, Layla reflected on the whirlwind of events. She sat on the edge of her bed, her mind racing with possibilities. She thought about the diner, the place where it all started, and the people who had encouraged her to take that first step. She realized that her journey was not just about talent. It was about courage, persistence, and the willingness to embrace the unknown. For the first time, she felt a deep sense of purpose and determination to follow through with her dream, no matter how challenging it might be. Over the next few weeks, Layla immersed herself in the work required to prepare for her first major public performance. She practiced relentlessly, working on her vocal techniques, stage presence, and emotional expression. Each day brought new lessons, moments of self-doubt, and small victories. She learned to manage the balance between her old life and the new opportunities that were emerging. The diner remained a grounding force in her life, a place where she could remind herself of her roots and the courage that had carried her this far. Finally, the day of her first large public performance arrived. The venue was a small theater, filled with an audience eager to hear the emerging singer they had heard about online. Layla felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness as she stepped onto the stage. The bright lights illuminated her, and the audience's expectant faces created a palpable tension in the air. She closed her eyes for a moment, letting the memories of her first performance at the diner guide her. Then she began to sing. The music flowed through her, carrying every ounce of emotion and experience she had gathered along her journey. The audience was captivated, their attention focused entirely on her voice. Layla felt a connection with them, a shared understanding of hope, struggle, and determination. Each note resonated not just in the theater but in her own heart, reinforcing her belief in the path she had chosen. When the final note faded, the audience erupted in applause. Layla felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes as she took a bow. The moment was overwhelming. Validation, relief, and pure joy all at once. People came up to her afterward, expressing admiration and encouragement. Some were fans who had followed her online, while others had discovered her for the first time that night. Layla felt a profound sense of gratitude for the support and recognition she was receiving. In the weeks that followed, Layla's music career began to gain momentum. She recorded her first professional single, which received positive feedback from listeners and critics alike. Invitations to perform at other venues started to arrive, each opportunity building on the last. Layla continued to work with David and the producer, learning the intricacies of the music industry and how to navigate its challenges. She faced setbacks and moments of doubt, but each time she reminded herself of the courage that had carried her from the diner to the stage. Social media played a significant role in her rising popularity. Videos of her performances were shared widely, attracting new fans and supporters. Layla was careful to engage with her audience authentically, responding to messages and comments with gratitude and sincerity. She realized that her connection with her fans was as important as her talent, that sharing her story and being genuine could inspire others and create a meaningful impact. Despite the growing attention and opportunities, Layla never forgot the diner. She continued to visit, sometimes performing impromptu songs for the regular customers who were thrilled to see her progress. The diner remained a place of comfort and inspiration, a reminder of the moment her journey began. It was a symbol of perseverance, courage, and the small steps that led to extraordinary outcomes. As Layla's confidence grew, she began to dream bigger. She envisioned recording a full album, performing at larger theaters, and reaching audiences beyond her city. Each goal felt daunting, but she approached them with determination and careful planning. She knew that success would not come overnight, but she was ready to work for it, fueled by the passion and dedication that had carried her this far. One evening, after a particularly successful performance at a local festival, Layla stood backstage, listening to the crowd's applause reverberate through the venue. She felt a profound sense of accomplishment and excitement. The journey that had begun with quiet humming behind a diner counter had transformed into something extraordinary. Her voice, once a private solace, had become a bridge to the world, connecting her with countless people who appreciated and believed in her talent. Layla realized that her path was not just about fame or recognition. It was about sharing her gift, inspiring others, and embracing the journey with all its challenges and triumphs. The fear and uncertainty that had once held her back had become a source of strength, teaching her resilience, patience, and the importance of believing in herself. And as she looked out at the cheering crowd, she knew that this was only the beginning. The world was full of possibilities, and she was ready to explore every one of them, carrying the lessons of the past and the hope for the future in every note she sang. Months had passed since Layla first sang at the diner, and her life had changed in ways she could never have imagined. The small, quiet nights behind the counter had been replaced with rehearsals, recordings, interviews, and performances that drew more attention with each passing week. Yet, despite the whirlwind of activity, Layla felt grounded in the journey that had brought her here. She remembered the nervous humming, the late-night coffee refills, and the supportive words from Tom and her friends. Those memories were a constant reminder of her roots, a foundation for the new life she was building. Layla's schedule had become demanding, but she embraced it with enthusiasm and determination. Each day brought new lessons, challenges, and victories. She had learned the intricacies of the music industry, the importance of connecting with her audience, and the patience required to grow as an artist. With David and the producer guiding her, she had recorded her first professional single, created a music video, and begun performing at larger venues. Each performance felt more confident than the last, and her voice continued to grow stronger and more expressive. The response from fans and listeners was overwhelming. Social media and online platforms amplified her reach, and people from different cities and backgrounds shared their admiration for her talent. Messages poured in, thanking her for her music and sharing how her songs had touched their lives. Layla felt deeply moved, realizing that her journey was about more than personal success. It was about connecting with people and inspiring them through her voice. The thought that her music could bring joy or comfort to others filled her with a sense of purpose that went beyond fame or recognition. One day, Layla received an invitation to perform at a prestigious city festival. The event promised a larger audience than she had ever faced before, and it was an opportunity to showcase her talent to industry professionals and fans alike. The anticipation made her nervous, but she reminded herself of how far she had come. The small diner, the open mic, and the early recording sessions had all prepared her for this moment. She focused on the music, letting her passion and training guide her. The festival day arrived, and Layla stood backstage, listening to the sounds of the bustling crowd. The energy was electric, and she felt a surge of adrenaline mixed with excitement and a touch of anxiety. She took a deep breath, thinking about the journey that had brought her here. The applause and cheers from her first audience at the diner seemed like a distant memory, yet it had been the spark that ignited this incredible path. When she stepped onto the stage, the bright lights illuminated her and the audience fell silent in anticipation. Layla closed her eyes for a moment, centering herself, and then began to sing. Her voice filled the massive outdoor venue, reaching every corner with clarity and emotion. She poured her heart into each note, letting the music tell her story, the struggles, the dreams, and the courage it had taken to pursue them. The audience was captivated, and Layla felt a profound connection with every listener. The performance was met with a standing ovation. People cheered, clapped, and some even wiped tears from their eyes. Layla felt a rush of joy and gratitude. She had taken a dream that once seemed distant and transformed it into a reality that touched countless people. The energy from the crowd, the acknowledgement of her talent, and the sense of accomplishment created a moment she would never forget. After the festival, opportunities continued to expand. Layla received invitations to perform on local television programs, appear in interviews, and collaborate with other artists. Each experience built her confidence, skill, and understanding of the music industry. She remained focused, balancing her time between recording, performing, and staying connected to her supporters. Her authenticity and dedication became her defining qualities, setting her apart in a world where talent alone was often not enough. Despite the growing fame, Layla never forgot the diner. She returned whenever possible, sometimes performing impromptu songs for the regulars and staff who had witnessed the very beginning of her journey. These visits were grounding moments, reminding her of the courage it had taken to step into the unknown and the importance of staying humble and connected to her roots. The diner, with its simple charm and familiar faces, symbolized the start of her transformation and the support that had nurtured her dreams. One evening, Layla was invited to a special event celebrating emerging artists from her city. The venue was elegant, filled with industry professionals, fans, and fellow musicians. She took the stage with a quiet confidence, reflecting on the journey that had brought her from late-night diner shifts to performing in front of a large, appreciative audience. As she sang, her voice carried not just the notes of the song, but the emotions, experiences, and growth she had gathered along the way. The audience responded with overwhelming enthusiasm, applause and cheers, making her feel both proud and deeply humbled. After the performance, Layla mingled with attendees, sharing her story and hearing their own experiences. Many expressed admiration, inspired by her journey from a humble beginning to becoming a recognized talent. The connections she made were meaningful, reinforcing her belief in the power of music to bring people together, encourage, and uplift. She realized that the journey was not just about her own success, but about the impact she could have on others through her passion and dedication. Months turned into a year, and Layla's music career continued to flourish. Her single gained traction on streaming platforms, and invitations to perform in larger cities started to arrive. She traveled for shows, interviews, and collaborations, each experience enriching her skills and broadening her perspective. Yet through it all, she remained true to herself, grounded in the lessons learned from the diner and the people who had supported her along the way. Layla's story became an inspiration to others, a testament to the power of courage, persistence, and following one's dreams. She spoke at events about her journey, encouraging aspiring artists to embrace their talents, take risks, and stay connected to their roots. Her authenticity and passion resonated with audiences, and she became a role model for those seeking to turn their dreams into reality. One evening, after a successful performance in a well-known theater, Layla stood backstage, listening to the crowd's applause echo through the hall. She closed her eyes, feeling a wave of gratitude and reflection. The path from the small diner to this moment had been filled with challenges, doubts, and uncertainties. But it had also been filled with growth, joy, and profound learning. Every step had shaped her into the artist and person she had become. As she stepped outside, the city lights twinkled against the night sky. Layla felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing that her journey was still ongoing, with countless opportunities and experiences ahead. She understood that being a star was not just about recognition or applause. It was about embracing the journey, sharing her passion, and touching the lives of others. And as she walked through the quiet streets, she carried with her the lessons of courage, resilience, and the belief that dreams, no matter how distant they may seem, could become reality with determination and heart. Layla's life had transformed, but the essence of who she was remained unchanged. She was still the young woman who had nervously hummed while working at the diner, dreaming of a life beyond the ordinary. She had simply found the courage to take the leap, to share her voice, and to embrace the opportunities that came her way. And in doing so, she had become a star. Not just for the applause and recognition, but for the journey, the growth, and the inspiration she brought to everyone who listened.